Good evening or good morning or good afternoon, everyone. What is up? Welcome back to the Talking Sports Podcast right here on YouTube, Apple Podcast, and Spotify. Please like, comment, and subscribe wherever you guys are listening, wherever you guys are watching. It is the NBA Finals time, so you guys know what that means. We're going to be breaking down. We're not going to make it long. We're not going to make it, maybe not too short, but not too long. We're going to break down the NBA Finals. I'm going to toot my own horn really quickly. When we did our playoff preview, it was like a month and a half ago, maybe a month ago, Jara, I picked Mavericks versus Celtics. I was right. I'm going to toot your own horn, even though that sounds a little weird. Didn't mean it like that. But you picked the PGA Championship, correct? You went with Xander Schauffele. I know we'll get to it when we get to the U.S. Open in a couple weeks, but I'm going to give you your props. I'll take my props.
I thought you were going to hate on me for thinking the Mavericks had no chance of making the finals, but
you did say that, but I'm being nice today. I'm in a nice mood. I'm in a tired mood. We're both tired, but we're in a nice mood. Jara, how we doing, man? And where can everyone follow us on social media? And if you're not following us on social media yet, like, shame on you. Sorry.
Yeah, so follow what Pete said. If you're not following us, we're at Talking Sports PD, Instagram, X, and TikTok. Please hit us with the follow. We really appreciate it. If you like our content, if you watch our YouTube videos, please hit us up with a follow on social media. We post a lot more content on Twitter and Instagram and TikTok. So just keep up to date with just smaller things that we put out. At Talking Sports, X, Instagram, and TikTok.
And as always, we are sponsored by Underdog Fantasy, NBA Finals, golf, MLB season, right? Everything going on, get on Underdog Fantasy. They always have cool promos. Seen a lot lately. They have a lot of Caitlin Clark promos. If you're into the WNBA and Caitlin Clark, there's a lot of Caitlin Clark promos. Baseball, a couple weeks ago, there was a Paul Skeens, a new pitcher for the Pirates, promo of him to pitch, I think, over a half pitch. Like a little free throw in there, add a couple else in there, and win you guys some money. Going, yeah, a little boost. Only time it wasn't a boost is when Aaron Rodgers was over a half yard and he tore his Achilles before he got a yard, and I took it. So that's the shame on me, I guess. I don't know. That was the only time it never happened. Besides that, it usually happens. So get on Underdog Fantasy, use code TSB. Guys, we really don't have a spot where we're going with this. We're going to give you our finals pick. We are going to give you our NBA Finals MVP pick. Obviously, it's usually based on the team that wins. We're going to give you guys both that. We're going to keep it nice and loose. Drop a comment. Let us know who was winning the championship and in how many games. Jared, I'm going to start with you. We're going to go, we'll surface to the Mavericks here. I'm not going to just throw you cold in there, but we're going to start with the Dallas Mavericks, a team that you were definitely not high on. So I'm going to ask you this. Put yourself in the Mavericks shoes here, right? Like, if you're a Mavericks fan or you're a Mavericks beat reporter, what do maybe the Mavericks kind of have to do, or what do they kind of bring to the table that maybe you didn't see in the playoffs and what they have done in the playoffs that could maybe give them the edge over Boston in the finals?
Yeah, I think the key for the Mavericks and what they can do better than the Celtics is just they're bigger. They have bigger, down low. Derek Lively and Gafford have been playing great this postseason. And, in the pick and roll, offensive rebounds, especially on the defensive side with the blocks, Gafford's averaging I'm looking here, almost 2 blocks a game. Lively's averaging a little over 1. Just defending the paint. And obviously we know Porzingis is coming back. However, he's not like a true big. He's more of a perimeter big. Al Horford is great defender. He's like a little undersized compared to what the Mavericks have. So if they could just get second chance shots, offensive rebounds, and just defending the paint for when Tatum and Brown drive. Same with Derek White. They have a lot of ball handlers that like to get to the basket. So if they could just defend the paint and just at least contest and make their job harder. The problem with the counter the size of the Mavericks is Celtics are a very good 3-point shooting team. Their bigs can shoot. So that will kind of counteract their, help defense. If Gafford's on Porzingis or Gafford's on Horford, like they could shoot threes very well. So in that instance, that's where they got to dominate it, and hopefully, Horford and Porzingis don't go off shooting threes, or you know,
Jared, when we recorded about a month and a half ago, when we talked about the NBA, the playoff preview, right? And I always go back to this point that you made, and I think your point still kind of reigns true, right? Like the reason you were down on Dallas, who was that third option, right? Like if someone's struggling, if it's Luka, if it's Kyrie, or if they need a third option, who is that, right? And it's been multiple different guys. They still probably don't have that third option. And I think what your point still reigns true. It's interesting to see because I think both teams are so different in the sense of how they're structured roster wise, right? Like Dallas is coming at you, and this is why I bought into Dallas. They're probably the best maybe one of the best probably the best 1-2 punch right now. Left, obviously, maybe left, but or in the NBA, and I think
I think the
Kyrie
two
Irving's
1-2 punches are in the finals right now.
yes,
Tatum, Brown, and Irving.
and something that I never thought you and I maybe ever talk about, or people would talk about, is Kyrie Irving kind of changing the narrative around him. Because a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, it was the narrative was not good, and rightfully so, from what happened in Brooklyn, what Kyrie kind of did to himself, everything with the vaccine, politics involved as well, everything that Kyrie Irving kind of brought upon himself and that the media brought upon him just didn't sit well for Kyrie Irving, and how he left Brooklyn didn't sit well with people, and how he left Boston really didn't sit well with people as well. But he's changed the narrative here in Dallas, and he's turned into the Kyrie we saw in Cleveland before he forced his way out. And I think we have a chance, and the duo has been tremendous together. And but then they go against Boston, and Boston has a great duo in Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, maybe not to the level of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, but what Boston brings is guys that can also contribute a little bit more effectively on that roster. Al Horford, Jrue Holiday is one of the best perimeter defenders in the NBA, which bodes very well against Dallas. I don't know if Minnesota had that in their bag in the conference finals against Dallas, like a true legit defender that can match up with either Luka or Kyrie. I'm assuming Drew's going to go up against Kyrie a little more than Luka, just based on size and fit. You also have Al Horford, like I mentioned. Kristaps Porzingis coming back is a huge factor. Be able to stretch the floor, be able to shoot the three. I like Dallas a lot. I also like Boston because I think Boston can beat you in so many different ways. But going back to what I said in the beginning, your point still reigns true, Jared, right? Like, I don't know if Dallas has found a third option. I don't know if they were ever going to find a third option, and it hasn't hindered them. There's been games that they've lost based off Kyrie Irving not playing great, or Luka Doncic not playing great. The thing that Dallas has, they have a little less margin for error. I think Boston can withstand either Brown or Tatum having a bad night. They can, because they have Holiday, Porzingis coming back, Al Horford, Derek White, who I didn't even mention, right? You can have Tatum struggle. You can have Jaylen Brown. Jared, I don't know if Dallas can do that, right? Like if Luka has an off night or Kyrie Irving has an off night, there's no one picking up the scoring. There's other guys on that roster, Gafford, Derek Lively, PJ Washington, all fitting a role really well, and they're doing their jobs really well. But once their jobs asked to go from a 5 out of 10 or to a 10 out of 10, they probably can't meet that standard. And that's probably where Boston has that edge in this series.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. However, like in the Thunder series, that's the one I watched, I'm a Thunder
Conference
fan.
series, yeah.
Watched,
100%.
A lot of it. And, Thunder have good defensive guards similar to what the Celtics have.
Mm-hmm.
And they kind of shut down Kyrie Irving, shutting down meaning 16 points per game he averaged, which, he's averaging 22 in the playoffs. He did really well last series. But when he got shut down, for some reason, PJ Washington just became the best 3-point shooter I've ever seen in my life. And dude, he was leading the league and leading the game in scoring. And last series, you didn't see that. He struggled from three. And he struggled he wasn't the same as he was in the Thunder series, but he did step up in that Thunder series. Not saying that's a regular occurrence. He's not always going to be, he was basically the primary scorer, not in the ball in his hands, but in a couple games, he was the leading scorer for the Mavericks, which me and you no one would have ever guessed, that to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, can he do that in the finals? Probably not. And like you said, so if Kyrie has a bad game, I don't see PJ dropping 30 again. And after PJ, another, like, as you've been referring to, who's no one else is going to unless Tim Hardaway just has a out of his
Yeah,
mind game, like resurgence,
but
But he
look,
hasn't even been playing much.
this league, and the thing is, when you can not counteract that, but like what talk about Dallas, like the league has turned into a league that relies on two guys. Like we've kind of gotten away from the LeBron James, I don't want to say era because it wasn't just him, but like that's kind of started the movement of the big three, right? We saw it in Golden State. We saw teams try to kind of construct big threes. We're not really at that point in the NBA anymore, right? In the sense that Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving can get you to your point, right? Or to the point that you need to, which is the NBA Finals. But let's just transition to more maybe Boston, because obviously I think we broke down Dallas appropriately. Jay, look, Boston's had easy path is, I hate saying it because you go to the NBA Finals and it's look, is it easier than they probably expected? Yeah, but like you still earn it, and I'm not going to take anything away from what the Celtics did, right? Like they did face a Miami team that was battled in the first round in the conference semi. Did they face Miami? Yeah,
Yep.
conference semis. I'm blanking on who they did
We're
not.
talking
Who did they
last
play?
year or
No, this year they played Miami in the first round this year, right?
first round, yeah. And then they played the
Who did
Cavs with Donovan.
Thank you. That's who it was. Cavs. Donovan Mitchell kind of floundered at the end with a couple injuries, and then Tyrese Halliburton kind of at the end. Even though I thought Indiana gave it a better run than
Indiana,
maybe when we look back,
I mean,
and we see a sweep, we won't remember it, but I think we should know now that probably Indiana played better. But I was going to ask you, you can answer as well, but what do you like? Is there a weakness we see from Boston? Is it a roster weakness? Is it a player weakness? Or is it maybe they just haven't been tested yet and they haven't really had to face adversity? And if they go down 1-0 or they go down 2-1, like what do they do? Because they haven't faced that in this postseason.
Yeah, so I will say them going down wouldn't be a weakness because we saw like the Pacers had 2 games where they should have won. They were up like 20 points.
Yes,
Boston
100%.
came back. So
they couldn't pace themselves.
That was like their adversity. And I think Boston's biggest weakness is on the offensive side. They get too stagnant and ISO heavy where it's, okay, Jaylen Brown, this is your time to get a bucket. And everyone stands on the wing, or like, okay, Jason Tatum, like you're up.
Yeah.
And even like Derek White, sometimes they get too ISO centric. Because with this team, if the 4 guys on the team, Tatum, White, Jrue Holiday, and Brown, could all light it up from 3. So yes, you could play a little ISO, but you can't just sit on the wing and, okay, if he drives and it's not open, he's going to kick it out. Like you got to make cuts still. Like Jaylen Brown and Tatum, they don't make cuts. When it's one of their other turns, they kind of take the possession off. You know what I'm saying?
That starting lineup's too good to be ISO ball.
Yeah.
Dallas fits it more, obviously, with Luka and Kyrie.
Yeah, and you see like Derek White's the one guy who, he makes cuts and he gets open layups, like, because you're so focused. The Mavericks, it's like Tatum has the ball. Like, I think, what's his name? Derek Jones, great defender, but Tatum's probably better offensively. When Tatum has the ball, they're going to be focused on what Tatum's doing and need the help on that. Someone just got to make a cut, and he's got to be more of a playmaker rather than just a pure scorer. Yeah. That's their weakness.
You know what? Another weakness is for Boston. We talk about how good that roster is. It's more of the fact, and Porzingis coming back extends it a little.
Yeah, we haven't really seen him this playoffs.
But I was going to talk about their depth. Their depth isn't anything pretty. Like each
team has the same kind of depth.
Yeah. So Porzingis extends it because it pushes a starter to the bench. So it creates a little bit more depth. But outside of their top 6, when I mean top 6, Jrue Holiday, Derek White, Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Porzingis, and Al Horford, it's a combination of Luke Cornett, who really doesn't play, Sam Hauser, Peyton Pritchard.
Just like 3-point shooters at that point.
It's not a Jaden Springer, like Xavier Tillman, like O'Shea Brissett. Like it's just guys that don't play or play a minute or two. It's really not deep after 6 guys. I think Peyton Pritchard's a solid NBA player, right? As a 7th man. But after that, Sam Hauser, like I watched him in college. Like I don't think Sam Hauser.
He's a great 3-point shooter. He's just 3.
It's streaky and it's so the Celtics can get in trouble with their depth. Their starters are going to run a lot. but they've run a lot in the postseason, and they've had a little bit of rest just because they haven't played super long postseason series heading into this NBA Finals, which is helpful. Porzingis playing could be the factor that pushes Boston over the edge, right?
I mean, dude, how many? Like, do you know how many points Porzingis averaged in the regular season? Because I didn't before this, really.
No idea. I'm gonna click his name right now.
No, if you had to guess,
I know, but I was gonna say, I know what it says. I was gonna guess 15.
Yeah, he was averaging 20 points per game. Like that.
Yeah, that's probably a bigger loss than I expected.
Yeah, I was thinking like 12, 14 points per game, and he averaging 20. And plus, he's great at, I wouldn't say defense necessarily, but blocks. He gets a lot of blocks, so that will. He's
also a way better offensive player than Al Horford at this point of his career.
Oh yeah, and he's
Horford's a good NBA player, good solid, but he's averaging 30 minutes a game in this postseason, right? I don't know if that's in his legs anymore. And I think this adds another.
I think you use Al Horford more of like a precision, plug and play guy. That'll be great.
You can also do different combinations, right? You could run a bigger lineup with Tatum, Brown, Horford, and Porzingis. With Derek White or Jrue Holiday, you can go a little smaller and move Horford or Porzingis to the bench, right? Like you can do different combinations that they haven't really had this postseason in a way to combat what's coming at you with Dallas. I think another X factor, like I said earlier, like Jrue Holiday, right? Like I think Boston didn't have that last year. I like Marcus Smart a lot. He's probably, if Jrue Holiday in that sense of a similarity of players, Jrue Holiday is an A, Marcus Smart's a B in that like type of player, if that makes any sense, like their style, what they bring. And we saw how crucial Jrue Holiday was to Milwaukee's championship run a couple years ago. And we saw how crucial he was to Milwaukee when they didn't have him this year, right? Even though Damian Lillard was still good, but like Jrue Holiday just gives you a different it factor in the NBA playoffs, especially in the finals. Has finals experience, has winning a finals experience, right? And I think he's going to put you over the edge because you have a guy that will just guard Kyrie Irving for the entirety of a game. And I think that's a huge, huge factor for Boston.
And what's fun about, like, when I was trying to pick a team, like I was going back, like, oh, what team has the edge here? And I feel like they're very like, this is gonna be a great series because they're very like,
oh, I think it's gonna be awesome,
very like equally like good. Like on Dallas defensive side, yes, they have the good guards, but like defensively, like their best defenders are forwards, which Celtics best offensive players are forwards. So they got Derek Jones, and I'm sorry, PJ Washington's not the best defender, but he's a good player to have.
Gafford and Lively are really good defenders down low.
And then you look at the Mavericks, their best players are guards, and you look at the Celtics, their best defenders are guards with White and Jrue Holiday. So it's like,
that's a good point, dude.
Offense or defense, which one's going to win it this year? Kind of,
Also, one other factor before we get to our finals pick and who the MVP is. Boston's been here before, right?
Yeah, that's
against Golden State a couple years ago.
Usually a second time around, it's harder.
Usually, if you get that second chance, you think it's harder or easier
to win or lose?
To win. I think it's easier to win.
Easier to win. Second.
Oh, I didn't know where you're going. So I think you have experience. You know what happened against Golden State, right? Like Tatum knows, Brown knows, Horford knows, right? And then obviously you bring in Jrue Holiday with a legit NBA Finals experience by winning an NBA championship with Milwaukee. Luka's first NBA Finals is a factor. You do have Kyrie on a team that won an NBA championship and knows what it kind of takes, but I think it's
also
a little different for Dallas. Does it really matter? Do you factor that in at all?
I wouldn't take Luka's NBA Finals experience like he's proven he's a ball player. He knows what's
so I'm not saying you should. I kind of agree with you. Like Luka can score if the lights were out and it was 2:30 in the morning after eating 10 cheeseburgers. Is that where you kind of like Luka's gonna score because that's what Luka Doncic kind of does.
He knows how to play. He just plays bad. He doesn't get influenced by
and you know what? This might be, a lot of the European basketball players haven't, like Jokic hasn't, Giannis hasn't when they've been in this spotlight in their first championship, right? They succeeded both times. So you could have that factor in, right? Like you could have Luka's first time. You saw Jokic, you saw Giannis kind of win. Could Luka be that, obviously win the first time he's been there, but Boston's second time in. Boston's also like if not now, kind of when, almost. And I'm not saying I'm saying that's what people are saying. I should have phrased
No,
that a little
after
better.
this, Boston's got a lot more pressure because if they don't win now, it's like, all right, they win it.
You think you're
Never gonna
assuming
win.
like
You know,
you're assuming like the Knicks are going to get a little better and they're not going to be as banged up. You're assuming Indiana's going to be better
not
next
even
year.
that. Just like how much better can this Boston team get?
True. I
You
agree.
know,
If not in the sense of that, and I also think if you look just the Eastern Conference, like they're not going to have that easy of a run. I don't think ever again.
no.
Like because like I just said, the Knicks are probably going to get not going to be as injured, right? Indiana's probably going to get a little better, even if they don't. You still have Milwaukee, who I think is going to have a bounce back year if Giannis is healthy. The
Milwaukee.
Sixers you have to factor in with Embiid, right? Like there's Miami, you never know what they do, right? Like I think the East is going to be a little
The
better.
Hawks, they have the #1 pick. Not saying
Yeah,
they're going to be competing for a
the
finals.
Chicago Bulls. No,
Yeah. Hey, we'll see about that one.
Just gonna throw that one in. I'll clip it if it
Magic.
comes. Yeah, like I don't think it's gonna be as easy, right? And there's a lot of guys that were injured and all that kind of stuff. So if not now, when? And your roster gets more expensive, you have to pay Jason Tatum. You just paid Jaylen Brown. You're gonna have two really expensive players on that roster. Like two probably the most expensive players we've ever seen on the same roster ever in NBA history, probably based on obviously money just going up. So if not now, when for Boston? And if you're Dallas, you're like finals. I think they'll be back again next year, maybe add another piece or two. You never know. Dallas is weird. So look, my logic is go ask Dan Marino. He got there once as his rookie quarterback with the Miami Dolphins, and everyone's probably like, well, you could get there again. You got there as a rookie, didn't win, never got back, right? So seize the opportunity, right? Like you got to obviously seize the opportunity because you never know when you get back because it's a grind to get back. But I think maybe for Boston, if not now, kind of when like first year rodeo a couple years ago, Golden State, a little more experience. Now it's probably maybe their time to take it home. So anything else you got to say, or do you want to get into your finals pick and your MVP pick?
I'll just make one more note.
Go for it.
Like for the Mavericks side, we know Celtics, I don't think it's going to be, well, these guys have to be on for them to do well. I think you know what they are, and they're either going to beat you that way or they're not. For the Mavericks, that's the disadvantage to the Mavericks. Certain guys need to be on. Obviously, Luka and Kyrie usually always on, so I'm not going to like say, oh, they got to be on, because obviously if Luka and Kyrie aren't scoring points, they're not going to win by any games. But like Derek Jones, he was averaging 40. I'm looking now, he's averaging 40% from three. Like if he continues that, and PJ Washington continues that, like they need their I guess role players to hit threes.
Yeah.
Hit threes. And if they're not hitting threes, it's gonna be a long run for the Mavericks. That's the only thing. Like the Mavericks need to do this, whereas the Celtics, they're gonna be hitting threes. It just depends who's gonna be on that night and therefore it. So
I'm getting a little bit of a deja vu coming from you. This is something similar you said a month and a half ago when we talked about the preview. When we talked about the playoff preview, it's still, like I said earlier in the show, it still reigns kind of true.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, before we get into that, guys, social media, follow us on Talking Sports PD on every single platform. Like, comment, and subscribe on this video. If you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, rate a review, follow us, all that fun stuff, and make sure you guys use code TSP on Underdog Fantasy. JR, I'm going to go to you. Give me your NBA Finals pick and how many games, and then attach who wins Finals MVP.
Wouldn't that be? Oh, okay, I see. So my NBA Finals pick, I was going back and forth for a while. My gut is honestly telling me the Mavericks. However, I'm going Celtics. I'm going against my gut. I just feel like they're the more polished team. It's less very like. I know you know what you're getting from the Celtics.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, second time around in the finals, adding Jrue Holiday. They didn't get the Nuggets this year. They got the Mavericks, new team. I'm going Celtics here in 7. I think it's going to be a really good series. I think it's going to 7 games. My Finals MVP is no other than Jason Tatum.
You're not going Jaylen Brown, who just won Eastern Conference Finals MVP?
No, I'm going Tatum. It's his moment. He's just going to become – this is his NBA moment. So it's Jason Tatum.
So I looked back, right, and I in our finals preview or playoff preview, and I thought I picked Mavericks to go to the finals with Boston, right? Forgot I picked Boston to beat Dallas. I don't know. I said that in the video. I went back and looked at like the edits. I was trying to find a clip for social media. And I was like, oh, I said Boston over Dallas. I just assumed I said Dallas over Boston, but I just went kind of bold with thought that Dallas getting there. You said threw me off a little. It threw me off a little because
go with what you pick. You don't have to go against, like, you don't have to choose the other way if you're forcing yourself to do that.
Okay. You know what? For this, not the sake of the video, for the sake of I like being right, because I who doesn't like being right? Come on, everyone likes being right. Okay, to restart this. So for my finals, for my NBA finals pick, I'm going the Boston Celtics, right? Like what I said earlier when it came to the playoff preview, I think they have too much firepower. I think the addition or the adding back Kristaps Porzingis is a huge factor, adds a little of depth. I think their roster as a whole, when it comes to 5 or 6 guys, is way better. I think Jrue Holiday gives you an absolute it factor on the perimeter when it comes to defending Kyrie Irving. And I also think their experience the first time around against Golden State shapes them this time. I got Boston in 7, which is why I kind of decided almost to go against you just because for the sake of the episode. And then I got Boston in 7 with Jaylen Brown winning Finals MVP. I can't go exactly the same there. I had to like change up the Finals MVP.
It's either gonna be Tatum or Brown. Just pick out of a hat at that point.
But yeah, so we both got Boston in 7. You guys will see this pick on social media right around maybe before tip off around Thursday evening. But you guys will see this episode sometime Tuesday. I have no idea when we're posting this, but sometime Tuesday you guys will see this. Jared, anything else you got to say when it comes to the NBA Finals?
No, I was just gonna say it's gonna be a great matchup. A lot of stars in this game. We'll see if Kyrie just steps up. It's gonna be, I think Kyrie and Jaylen Brown are, they're not the main stars, but it's gonna be fun seeing which one outperforms the other to help the superstar on their team get the finals.
I'm rooting for Dallas.
I'm rooting for Dallas, but I can't root for Dallas. I hate that.
I know. I think it goes 7 though. Like we both said, but I think this is gonna be exciting.
It's gonna be exciting.
Series.
7 or 6. Who knows?
Yeah, I agree.
Deep.
Little tidbit, people that are still listening or watching. We have a lot of content coming out for you, right? Jared and I got busy schedules. We still have content to come out with you. I'm not saying, I don't know when these are coming out, but in the month of June, you're going to see this NBA Finals preview or listen. We got a U.S. Open preview when it comes to golf. I texted Jerry, he's like, the U.S. Open already? That was your response. So I'm paraphrasing. That was your response. The Euro Cup, right after Euro Cup starts in 2 weeks, we're going to be breaking down, similar to our World Cup episode. I found a bracket simulator, Jared. It's going to be fun. We're going to put a bracket simulator on the screen. We're going to go at it, and we're just going to see who the frick wins the Euro Cup. And then we got the NBA draft at the end of June. So, holy cow, we have a ton of content coming you guys' way. So do not click off. Don't unsubscribe. Don't unfollow. Stay tuned for so much content. There's literally...
Don't give them any ideas.
There's a little kind of content for everyone. You're a golf guy, we got golf. You're a soccer guy, we got soccer. If you're an NBA guy, we got NBA. If you're a draft guy, we got NBA draft. We don't have any NFL content, but that's not going anytime soon because NFL gets busy. Okay, that is going to do it for us. Jared, where can everyone follow us on social media? And then we'll get out of here, man.
Hey, guys, we are on Instagram, X, and TikTok at Talking Sports PD. Like Pete said, it's going to be a jam-packed couple weeks / month. So keep up to date and follow everything we post. A lot more content than just videos at Talking Sports PD. X, I was freak out.
Just say Twitter. Just say Twitter, dude.
X, Instagram, and TikTok.
Underdog Fantasy. All the events I just mentioned, you can find on Underdog Fantasy. Use the player pick'em. Use any type of thing on Underdog Fantasy. Use code TSP for 100% deposit match up to $100. Just type in underdogfantasy.com. Click the link in our bio. Type in TSP. If you click the link in our bio, the code already gets entered for you. You don't even have to do it. But if you want to do a little more work, type in underdogfantasy.com and type in TSP for a deposit match up to 100% deposit match up to $100. That is going to do it for us. JR has the Celtics in 7 with Jason Tatum winning Finals MVP. I have Celtics in 7 with Jaylen Brown winning NBA Finals MVP. Don't go anywhere. US Open, the European Championship, and the NBA Draft is right around the corner. A big month of June coming for Talking Sports Podcast. That is going to do it for us. He was JR. I was Peter. Have a good week. Enjoy the finals. Hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and thank you.